to the Money Making Mamas Podcast.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. I'm Nancy Wallace Lobbs, and I'm joined by my co host, my beautiful daughter.
Kelsey Laka.
And we are a mother daughter duo. So, we're going to, I'm going to give a little teaser because we're going to do a mother daughter episode soon. So welcome back. And so, Kelsey, you always set up the agenda for us. So, what are we talking about today?
So last time, if you missed last week's episode, we talked about, actually, I think 2 episodes, we really started on this mompreneurs and how to just get started as a mom entrepreneur and how to start that reality, turn that dream into a reality while raising kids. Whether it's you want to open up your own baking shop or if you want to be a finance person or you want to go into real estate. So we started on that of just how to become an entrepreneur and taking those steps and kind of tips for that. So 2 episodes back. And then last week's episode, we talked about real estate and and just kind of the common questions centered about real estate. You really dove into what real estate is for honestly, like if you know the yellow books that used to be like real estate for dummies or things like that. So you really broke down a lot of stuff, which I hope a lot of people found helpful. Because I know for me, like, again, real estate was not something that I ever thought I was going to go into, but I'm really happy that I did because it's been really lucrative for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you love real estate for obviously um
I like it
the
because it's fun.
cash side, but
Yeah,
also it's fun
it's
too.
fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
fun. And I also feel like I'm solving people's problems because 99% of the time I'm working with distressed sellers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People that are in a situation that they have to sell the house. Not necessarily foreclosure, but maybe death,
Mm-hmm.
divorce. Family member got ill. Spouse or mom. They just got too old and they can't
Yeah.
stay in the home. And that gives me a lot of joy to be able to solve people's problems, their real
Yeah.
estate problems.
Yeah, last week we talked a lot about just different ways that you can invest in real estate. You have a very high level, just things like that. So again, go back and listen to that episode if you are interested in real estate. If you listen to that episode and you still have some questions or you're still unsure or things like that, just about investing in real estate in general, this will be a perfect episode because so this week I went instead of coming up with my own questions, which is honestly a brain drain trying to figure out some of those questions at the end of the day. But I actually asked ChatGPT what is the most common myths about real estate investing and what is the most frequently asked questions. So today we're going to debunk those myths and answer a lot of those questions. So I guess I'll just kick
Let's
us
just go.
off.
Yeah, and could I just say too, on our
Mm-hmm.
website we have a lot of FAQs.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to touch on some of those, and then there might be some new ones that you researched and came up with. So
All right.
I'm ready.
All right. So Nancy Wallace Lobbs, real estate investor. Real estate investor teacher, mentor, coach. What's the biggest myth you hear about real estate investing and why isn't it true?
There's no deals out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no deals out there. So I hear that a lot, and usually it's because you don't know where to look or what to look for,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I always say, I talk about deal flow. So deal flow just means I always have something working in my pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Now, pipeline just means I'm marketing, I'm telling people. So when I first started out, many years ago, one of the things I learned, and this has actually been really good, is just to tell everybody that that
Mm-hmm.
you're buying, you're a real estate investor. Now, let me clarify. I only buy single family homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I do passively invest in other types of like commercial real estate and other things. But for my expertise, I'm single family homes. I used to manage a property management company, a single family home. So my expertise lies in single family.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, single family means it's, a house
Mm-hmm.
that you
Yeah.
could rent out and do multiple things with. So I think number one, where are the deals? Where should I buy?
Mm-hmm.
I know this is going to come up, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. And then the next thing is I need a lot of money.
Yeah. It's
So,
literally my next question. Do you need a ton of money to get started in real
so
estate
you don't need a
investing?
ton of money. Now you do need some. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's some people that say, "Oh, now in all the 20 some years I've been doing real estate investing, I've done one deal where I used no money." And
Mm-hmm.
now that was the way I did it is it's too convoluted to go through a podcast because it would be, it was a skill that I had to learn over many, many years of like how to do it. But you do need some money because you might want to do an inspection or you need to give an earnest money is like, so when I put something under contract, I have to give some money. They call it to make it a contract, right?
Mhm.
I forget
Mhm.
the term. I'm not a legal person. So you have to have some money.
Yeah.
But do you need 20% every single time? Absolutely not.
Now, okay, I have two follow-up questions.
Okay.
Okay, so one is back to the first one, but then also getting on this topic of money. So when you say you have to have some money, that doesn't necessarily mean cold hard cash in your hand. It also you can have money in your self-directed IRA. You can have money. I mean, is there other places? It's not
Yes. So
necessarily
you
like
can,
you're pulling money out of your savings account
right.
because I think
There,
that's what a lot of people get. I mean, that's what I was confused about was okay, well, you say you need some sort of money. Well, okay, if I only have X amount in savings and X amount in checkings, well, I don't have the money to pull it out. So, can you kind of go a little bit more into
yes,
where
I
else
will.
you?
So you can invest with a self-directed IRA, where so like if you have a Roth or a traditional IRA, self-directed just means I get to direct how I'm going to invest it. Like if you're with
Mhm.
other financial institutions, like I'm just going to throw out Fidelity because it's well known, and my husband has a Fidelity account from through his employer. So you go and you fill out a checkbox and say, yes, I want, these high risk or low risk or
Mhm.
whatever stocks and that kind of thing. So with a self-directed IRA, that just means you get to direct, I'm going to buy gold, I'm going to buy real estate, I'm going to buy, Bitcoin. So
Mhm.
you get to direct how your money is invested. So
Mhm.
that's a really good thing. Now, there's all kinds of ways. Now, usually what stops people is the down payment. So on an investment property, if you're first starting out, you're getting your first loan, you don't have to have an LLC. I mean, we can get into that kind of on down the road. But if you're just, you're buying your first property, you don't have to have an LLC. You can get it in
Mhm.
your own name, but your credit's going to be pulled. And when you go to a traditional lender, like I'm just going to say the big four, like a Chase, a Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they have a harder time doing investment loans.
Mhm.
So I like to use community banks.
Mhm.
These are local banks that they have. One of my favorite ones, the way I met the guy was I literally uh, stopped in one day
Mhm.
in they're in our community, and I asked to speak to somebody, told them what I want to do, and I had a sit down conversation with the vice president of the bank, and it
Mhm.
just so happened that they keep all of their decisions about lending within the bank. They don't send
Mhm.
it out, and you'll hear. So that type of a loan is called a DSCR. So it looks at the property. So let's say the property value is 200,000.
Mhm.
Then they will loan, up to 80% of that. So I don't know, so it's probably, let's say it's 160, right?
Mhm.
Now, if the property, now, so then that's 40,000. Where am I getting that?
Right.
Right. So I'm getting that through private money. So, and I know I don't want to get too much in the weeds. So, when you're doing lending, when you're looking for lending, so first you find a property, you get it under contract, you're doing your analysis to make sure,
Mhm.
oh, is this a deal or no, it's not a deal, or yes, it is a deal, and you want to keep it, let's say for a short term rental or a long term rental.
Mhm.
Then the next thing is, well, how am I going to purchase it? Where am I going to find the money? So if you have, let's say you own your own home, you want to take out a home equity line of credit, you could
Mhm.
do that. I've known people who have taken, I wouldn't advise this, but they've taken cash advances on their credit card. So
Mhm.
there's different ways to find the 20%, or you can negotiate maybe with the seller and he's going to carry, or she's going to carry part of the note. So finding the money, once you find the deal, finding the money is not as hard as people think,
Yeah.
because you can go to people who have money,
Yeah.
and these are people that you meet relationships and you can borrow money from, and those are private money lenders.
So I think the big takeaway from everything that you just said, because I know that's like even listening to you now, it sounds like a lot and that's very high level. So that's something if like anybody is interested, like happy to go more into details, but ultimately that's creative financing.
Yeah.
And ultimately finding there's different ways. So again, to follow up on the answer, the short answer is no, you do not need the hard money cash. Like you have to pull it out of your savings. There's creative ways to come up with the financing once you find the deal.
Yes.
So,
Yes, because there's people out there that's their business model is they loan. It's called private money lending, and then there's also hard money lenders.
mhm.
So you have to be, so we're probably going to talk about credit, so I'm just going to jump in there. Do you have to have back or good? Do you have to have background? No, you don't want to have. You don't have to have perfect credit. You do. If you have bankruptcies and you have foreclosures, yeah, it's going to be hard no
Mhm.
matter where you go.
Mhm.
There's only so much creativity that you can do with that.
Right.
But finding the lender is really about asking questions. I
Yeah.
mean, bottom line, it's who to ask and what to ask.
Mm. So to follow up, so then I had another part of my question that
Mm-hmm.
was not the financing part, but going back to the very first one of the biggest myth, and you talked about that there's no deals. So what would you say to someone that right now, the current times, interest rates are higher than they were X amount of years ago?
Yes.
How would you their answer to that?
Okay, so for me personally, the interest rate is kind of the least of my analysis. And here's
Mhm.
why. The interest rate is the interest that you pay on that property is tax deductible.
Mhm.
So it kind of goes against the cash flow, if you will.
Mhm.
So the interest rate on investment properties is always higher. I mean, I think the lowest I've ever paid for an interest rate on an investment property is 5%.
Mm.
I mean, if and like and compare that to my home, my
Mhm.
personal home, it's like 3.25. Of course, I got that a long time
Yeah.
ago. So today, the interest rate is like 6, 7%. But I just did a investment property and it was 7%. And that's not bad for an investment property.
Mm.
Um, does it make it harder? Yes and no. It makes it harder because, it's not going to maybe cash flow as much as you
Mhm.
want to. But remember, you can always refinance that, right?
Mhm.
And also because interest rates have gone up, rents have gone up.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you might pay a little bit more for the property, but you're also probably going to get more, in
Mhm.
rents. So it may balance out. And at the end of the day, one of the biggest advantages in Wealth Builder is that it you pay less income or yeah property not property taxes but taxes in general
Mhm.
when you have an investment property. So I don't really let interest rates stop me. I mean, if it's a good deal, then
Yeah.
you need to go. Now, when you talk about let's talk about now hard money lenders. Hard money lenders are companies that they're lenders, and so sometimes you might find a property and it needs repairs.
Right.
When no traditional lender is going to give you a loan for that, right?
Mm.
Because remember, you're not living in the property. So hard money lenders, they can be charging 12 and 13%,
Mm.
right? So their interest rate's a lot harder. Why would you pay that? Well, because it lets you get into a property that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. Now you have to factor all that in, and so especially when you do fix and flips, you have to figure out the cost of that money.
Mhm.
But that money lets you get that property. So you have to. It's all goes back to finding the deal, then doing your numbers,
Mhm.
and then start asking the questions. Now, a lot of hard money lenders, I will tell you this, when you start with them, they'll charge you more, but then the more business you do with them, they have a way of giving you a discount
Mm.
or if you make referrals and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then private money lenders are people that relationship wise. So
Mhm.
let's say I know someone, let's just say Jane Smith. Jane's got, she's got $250,000 in a self-directed IRA. She does not want to invest in real estate, but she wants to be a passive investor. I know Jane from networking or
Mhm.
and I present her an investment opportunity
Mhm.
to say, hey, do you want to loan me, $50,000 on this property? And then we negotiate the interest rate I'm going to pay her. Typically, a private money lender and hard money lender, you only pay interest, right? You're not paying the bulk of the amount you're borrowing. So
Mm. Okay.
I hope that makes sense. So there's all kinds of ways to get the money. It's knowing who to ask and what to ask for.
I have to get water. I just got like a tap. Wait, hold on.
Are you okay? I do know that.
As you were talking, I was like, "Oh my god, I have to cough." Okay.
So if we just end with me saying it's knowing,
Yeah. That's why I kind of like paused before I ran off. Okay.
okay.
Okay. Okay, we're just going to start back up.
Okay.
Okay, so I know we kind of went into high level things there. And if anybody ever has questions about, private money lenders, hard money lender, because I mean, still listening, even though we've been working together for like a year and I've invested a couple times, still some of this stuff is like, shoo.
Well, and also, I just want to say this. When I first started out, I did not know the
Mhm.
difference between this bank, this lender. And what happened was I ran out of money to invest.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I just kept asking people, well, what do you, I mean, I was like, how do people keep buying properties?
Mhm.
What is the secret sauce? And, it took me a hot minute to find the person that would give me the answer.
Mhm.
So sometimes in real estate investing, and this is why I like doing what I like, sharing and everything is because you'll find a scarcity mentality. Like they don't want to share.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, there's enough for everybody. And it was finally somebody said, well, hey, you need to go get a commercial note. Because what we wanted to do was we had 4 rental properties at the time, and they all had equity. And we ended up wrapping those 4 properties into one note,
Mhm.
one mortgage. It was considered a commercial note. And we took out all the equity. So let me just, so it's a cash out refi, is what they call it, cash out
Mhm.
refinance. And that money that I took out is all tax free money that then I can go and use to reinvest in
Mhm.
real estate. So I think getting your first property is I think the hump that most people need to get over.
Yeah.
Then when you get that first property, it's so much easier to get the money for the second, third, and fourth, fifth one because you're
Yeah.
leveraging.
Well, and I think it's about also too, I think a big part of real estate investing that not a lot of people talk about, and I feel like I only know about this because I've seen it through you, but it's also building your network
Yes.
from contractors to lenders to
Just
other
other investors.
investors, just all that and like who you trust and who you don't trust. So I think that's also another thing as
Yes, I
well.
think there's a saying, your net worth
Yeah.
is your network. And
Yeah.
that's so true because I didn't learn all these things by reading a book or,
Hmm.
and I learned it was a journey,
Yeah.
and so I think that's why I like doing what I'm doing is because it helps people get up the ladder a little bit faster.
Right.
Like I kind of think back, man, if I had somebody like me
Yeah.
showing me, I probably have double the properties I have now. Um, and I didn't always know what to ask.
Right.
I just felt like, oh, and so I actually wrote a book called "Let Me Ask You This"
Yeah.
because I'm kind of known for just asking annoying questions, but I finally get the answers. So
Yep. Yep. Definitely. So, kind of moving on to back to our myths and debunking those. Do you feel it is true that you need to quit your full-time job to be successful in real estate? And keyword, successful in real estate. Do you feel like you need to quit your full-time
I
job?
do not feel like you need to quit your full time job. In fact, I would encourage you not to quit your full time job until you are successful.
Mhm.
And success is different things,
Right.
right? Um, I've met many people and success is defined by how much money you want every month by for me it's like, well, how what does my future look like? Do I have
Mhm.
enough to retire when I want to or go where I want to or spend my time the way I want to spend my time? That for me
Mhm.
is the definition of success. So but you can invest in real estate on a part-time basis and lots of people do it.
Mm. So, I guess going on to talking about full-time job because there might be some realtors that are listening to our podcast because this is kind of your realm and um so does everyone need to have a real estate license to invest?
That's such a good question. And that's probably the second, besides where can I find a property? Do I need a real estate license?
Mm.
So it depends on why you want the real estate license. So I have a real estate license, a broker, and I have kept it even though I don't do property management anymore.
Mhm.
I keep it because it gives me a certain
Advantage.
credibility.
Mm.
And I have access to the multiple listing service.
Mm.
I can network much more comfortably and confidently with other realtors.
Mhm.
Um, so I do not do typical real estate activities. Like I don't list properties.
Mhm.
I don't work with buyers. I'm not a buyer's agent unless it's my daughter looking for a house or something like that. So for me, when people, if they don't have a real estate license, I just ask them, well, why do they want it?
Mm.
Now I don't even list my own properties anymore because
Mm.
I don't have time. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of realtor friends that either I'll let them list my properties, or if they have a property they can't sell, this is a
Mhm.
good tip to network with realtors. If they have a property they can't sell, they'll call me and I'll see if I can buy it or whatever.
Mhm.
And you always want to take care of your realtor friends and make sure they get paid.
Yep.
But no, you do not have to have a license. And so you do have to keep up with your license if you're going to. So it just depends on your reasons why.
Mhm.
I mean, if you just want access to information on the multiple listing service, you can actually get that either by partnering, or paying a realtor to run comps for you. You don't have to get your license, but if you just want that, to be able to run rental comps and things like that,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Mhm.
does take time and money to get a real estate license.
Yeah. Which, whoops. Guess that's a reminder to put our phones on silent. um, so I think this also kind of goes with these questions as well. When it comes back to, do you need to quit your full-time job? Do you need a real estate license? Would you say real estate investing is risky, or is it safer than people think? Which I think is a really good question because,
Okay,
yeah.
first, it's a two-parter. So first, yes, it is risky.
Mhm.
Anything that has to do with money and property, it's a risk.
Mhm.
Can you minimize the risk? So that's what I look at. I don't
Mhm.
say, oh, it's not any, because, the markets could change. There could be, I mean, like in right now where we're talking today, they just had, some of the worst natural disasters. We had
Mhm.
the hurricane in North Carolina, we had the wildfires in Los Angeles. So those people, when they bought those houses, didn't think it was going to be a risk. But,
Right. Mhm.
so what you want to do in real estate investing is minimize the risk. So I always say, yes, there's always a risk.
Mhm.
But if you get educated and you partner with the right people, you can minimize your risk. And I can tell you, then the whole years that I have been investing in real estate, I've never lost a boatload of money. I have lost money on a couple deals here and there,
Mhm.
but I'm saying it was all on each one of them. It was less than $5,000.
Mhm.
So I've never. But I'm a conservative,
Yeah.
um, and I just make sure that the numbers work.
So kind of speaking of risk, can you, and maybe just do like a brief, but if someone that is looking at a house on the beach for a short-term rental, what is the number one thing, or maybe number two things that you would tell them to look at?
Okay, number one, can you get it insured?
Mhm.
How much is the insurance going to cost? So let's just
Mhm.
take Galveston because we
Mhm.
almost bought a property in Galveston. So when you have a beach, an actual beach property, and in Galveston, not only do you have to have flood insurance, but you have to have wind.
Mm.
And we're recording this January 30th, 2025, and the insurance costs are really, really high right now.
Mhm.
Um, so I would look at insurance, and then if it's on the beach, like in Texas, the Texas coastal ways, they
Mhm.
have I don't know exactly, they're kind of like regulations, restrictions, but if the sand keeps washing away,
The
there's nothing.
erosion.
The erosion, yeah, the city or the powers to be can actually do what's called eminent domain and tear your property down.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, so you do, there's some things about coastal properties,
Mhm.
and
That you really need to look
you
into.
just really need to look at it, so the cost, and a lot of people do. I mean, I would love to have, and we've
Mhm.
tried many a time
Mhm.
to buy a property in Galveston, Texas, and something always happens. And the last thing that happened was there was a big hurricane. I was like,
Yep.
maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and so that's kind of the risk. I mean, how could I minimize the risk?
Mhm.
Because we had a property under contract there and everything, so it ended up being too risky.
Mhm. And obviously, we don't want to deter people from, if you want to get a short-term rental on the beach, do it, but just do your due diligence and look
Do
at
you?
all the things and not just,
Yes.
I mean, I think people look at is, yeah, hurricane insurance. Is my house going to be covered? But then I would have never known about the erosion thing to look at the wind. And then also too, yeah, just I would never think of those things. So don't want to deter anybody from, if
No,
that is
no.
your dream, go for it.
Yeah, and just
Look into it.
the particular house that we had was like literally really close to the
Mhm.
shoreline, and so they had had erosion, and there's some things that you can do, but if it comes to a point that it's um ecologically not sound. Yeah,
Mhm.
we were told by the city that they could just go in there. In fact, there was a lady I ended up talking to, and she had two properties that they were trying to do that. She was suing them.
Mm.
This was a few years ago, so maybe she won, and maybe it's not the same. But,
Yeah.
at that particular point in time, I was like, Maybe. And but
Water
I've always
parks.
wanted to have a beach house, but now I guess I'll just rent them.
I do think it would be because I know we've looked out a couple times getting a Airbnb on the beach, but when it's not necessarily the front row of the beach line, but it's like a lot is in front of the house and some there it hasn't built on, it can't be built on, whatever, and the house behind it, like that certain house. So it's like the house that we stayed in, and then there was a lot, and then the ocean. That's been like the most amazing
Yes.
houses because it's not necessarily front line of the hurricanes or right next to the water, but it's a little bit back and they can't build on that lot. That's been
Yes.
the real
Well, funny
gold
story,
mines.
because we had another house that was in the second row.
Mhm.
Actually, it was the third row. We had it under contract, ready to close, so excited. And there was a lot kind of not right in front, but kind of catty corner a little bit. So the risk is, okay, will anybody ever build there and block our view? But what happened was we didn't end up closing on the house, not because of any, I mean, the inspection, we were ready to go. We had the money and everything. The seller had a
Mm.
change of heart.
Oh, I think I remember this.
Yeah, and so the seller didn't want to sell the property anymore because it
Mm.
had been, I think it was after Labor Day weekend, and they had just been there, and then they, their family was like, "Oh, we just enjoyed it so much," blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Okay." So what ended up happening, because the seller, we ended up having the same realtor
Mhm.
in that area, which
Mhm.
probably wasn't, good for me. Anyway, so then we ended up settling, and he actually paid me not to buy his house.
Nope, there's that. So you
So
won a little bit.
so
So
there's all that just goes back to there's all kinds of ways to make money in real estate.
yeah, that's very true. And this is kind of going off course a little bit. Cuz I do want to talk about cuz I think that when people think real estate investing, short-term rentals, I mean, at least that's for me. Like that's one of the bigger goals because ultimately at the end of the day, it's another location that I can take my family
Hmm.
for a vacation and then also to have someone else pay it.
Right?
So I think a lot of people like short-term rentals is a goal of theirs. Um so we're in Dallas. Galveston is about a 5.5 hour drive. You have to go through Houston, possibly 6 hours, right? You guys were looking at Galveston. Clearly, like that didn't work out, and then you got several short-term rentals in Granbury, Texas, which is only an hour and a half from here, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, so now owning the lake houses, could you imagine yourself owning the Galveston house because of the times you've called me up and been like, oh, I have to run to Granbury because either A, the cleaners or a free, now granted, a freeze coming through Galveston. Now, granted, it did
It
snow.
did snow a
So,
couple weeks ago, so yeah.
but like, I mean, would that's a reality that people also have to look at
Yeah,
is,
so you can't. Okay, so in that, if we had bought a beach house and then turned it into an Airbnb, we would definitely have to have a property manager down
mm,
there, because it would just be impossible. And you're right, I have had to run to Granbury, and thank goodness I have the time to do it. It's a
mm-hmm,
90-minute drive from my door to the house that we, houses that we go have down there. And it's not something I want to do. And I have tried to hire a property manager. So here's probably a little tip about when you own in small towns, there's limits on there's limits on who can manage your property.
mm,
Like I tried a national company and it did not work out at all.
mm-hmm,
The cleaners, so when you have short-term rentals, I would say they can be risky. You just have to have really good organizational skills and
yeah,
management skills
mm-hmm,
when you have short-term rentals, because even if I had a property manager, I would need to manage the property managers because there's been so many
mm-hmm,
horror stories. And at the end of the day, if you want to stay on those platforms, it only takes one or two guests to get you kicked off.
mm-hmm, yeah. So, okay, I only have two more questions in my debunking
Okay, all
myth.
right, let's debunk.
So let's go back to debunking those. Can beginners really succeed in real estate, or is it only for experienced investors?
So I was a beginner. You were a
Mm-hmm.
beginner.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
think
think,
sometimes being experienced gives you you're more jaded. But I mean, but when everyone starts somewhere,
yeah.
right? And I was older. I mean, there's people that have started in 20s. I was not in my 20s. But I've known people that started in their 60s. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the cool thing about real estate investing. You can start at any age.
Yeah.
You can start as fast or as slow as you want to go. But the main thing is you just want to start.
Right. And I think kind of what you were saying earlier when I asked the question about is it true you need to quit your full-time job to be successful in real estate? It just depends on how successful you want to be in real estate. Like what's your goals? Like is it just to own a short-term rental somewhere one, or is it to own 20 long-term rentals?
Right. Is
So
it
if
to build up enough income to
yeah,
replace your income? And I think so. I think it's how you define success.
yeah,
And then
and yeah, exactly what you're looking, because again, for me, I was just looking to supplement my income or, generate some fast cash.
yes,
So at that time, I was a beginner and I did succeed because that was what my goal was, to generate some fast cash because I had quit my job to be home with the kids.
yes.
Um, so yeah, I think anyone can be,
Yeah,
again, it just depends on
yeah.
what
And
you
so
want
I
to
think
do.
that it depends on what your financial goals are, which we're happy to help you kind of, talk through that. But one rental property, it can, you might not be making a ton of money in terms of cash flow every month, $50, $100, but the tax savings. So a lot of people don't talk about how much money. So if let's say you and your husband or you and your partner have full-time jobs, or maybe one, the tax savings of owning real estate, just, I mean, it could pay for your daycare.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just amazing. So the money that you don't pay to the government.
Mhm. Um, this last question, I mean, I can answer this 100%, but I'm sorry. Is it possible to invest in real estate as a busy mom with limited time? 100%
So yeah, I
yes.
think you should answer that because you are a busy mom with
Yeah.
limited time.
So, yeah, my kids are not in daycare. My kids are not in a Mother's Day out. I have Nana, but majority of the time, my husband travels. I have the kids, and yes, 100%, you can still invest in real estate. I think it was last episode we talked about how much time you need to dedicate to real estate investing, and really, it's just 1 hour a day. And for me, I would juggle my personal time being filled with learning about real estate investing or looking at deals, or I would also give that time back to myself to do my own thing as well to fill my cup. So yes, it's possible to still have your sanity as a mom and also be successful and contribute financially to your family.
Exactly.
With even when the kids are with you 24/7. And again, take it from me because I have one that's about to be 3, one's about to be 2. One of them doesn't
You
nap
need
at
to
all.
get a week of potty training. So,
Yeah, oh
and
my gosh.
I'm going to add to that because I think we did talk about this last time, was about the tools. Like you need
Mhm.
tools to help you. So on our website, we have some resources. And so once you find a deal, you need to see if it's a deal. So we have like a rental calculator, we have a fix
Mhm.
and flip. So you can just plug in the numbers
Yep.
and then you can say, okay, and that takes like, I mean, not
5
even
minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can download, it's a free resource or whatnot. So
Mhm.
go to moneymakinmamas.com and get your free resource.
Well, even then we'll just leave the link below.
Oh, yes, yes.
So, moving on to frequently asked questions, which you are right. You can go to our website, moneymakinmamas.com. We do have a whole section for just frequently asked questions about real estate investing, where we go into depth of those questions. We also, if you follow us on social media, we like to just post every once in a while, can you invest with $5,000? Yes, and then the answer to that. So, but again, I pulled this from ChatGPT, so this is, you know, AI, all that, just taking all the smart stuff off the internet and giving it to me. So here we go. All right. How can I invest in real estate if I don't have a lot of capital up front? Which we did kind of go into this. So if you would just want to give a brief answer.
So I think if you don't have a lot of money up front, so then you have to look at some different options.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, you could partner with somebody like me. So if you find a property, then I can help you find the capital. Two, if you have, again, we kind of oversee this, but in our community, we have moms that have money that want to come together. Now, I'm saying that you need to have someone overseeing how you do this, make sure it's all papered. Or three, if you're a very good negotiator, you might be able to get that seller to do what's called a carryback. So basically, you're negotiating with it. Yes, I'm going to buy your house, and you're going to make months. I'm going to make it simple. You're making monthly payments to the seller to own the house. You still, there's paperwork and all of that, but
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of ways. And then of course, we talked about self-directed IRA, and you would be surprised at how much hidden money you can find when you start looking for it.
Mm-hmm. 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 What's the easiest type of real estate investment for a beginner?
Okay, I'm
And
partial.
I know, well, and I was gonna say, I know it depends on like what you want to do, but maybe what is the, I mean, I would give the straight up answer to that one.
What would your answer be?
Well, no, I'm asking. I think for me, I mean, I think it would be to have a partner and to invest and, having someone because again, it's not 100% all on you. You're having to figure
Right.
everything out, but you're using your network. I mean, that would be my guess, but again,
Yes.
you're the real
Yeah,
estate.
no, I think that's true. And even now, today, and I think, you and I are now partnering where I had
Mhm.
other partners. And so, I had a guy call me and I talked to him over the phone and we're going to go look at his property on Sunday and we're going to check it out and see. I've already preliminary run the numbers and we're going to see if it's a deal that we can make. And so Kelsey and I do now partner. Of course, I trust her, and then we're able to basically double our resources
Mhm.
for finding money and things like that. So mother daughter.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna go kind of go back and just say, when you get the first property, the first one is just it's how you're gonna learn.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn a lot of stuff. But then after you get that first property, that is how you'll get the other properties.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It goes all back to your network and who you know.
It does.
How do I find good deals without spending all my free time searching? So what would if you okay, so what maybe walk through of when we have clients come on, what is your advice to them when they're trying to, and I know that part of our program we do help um our moms and want to be investors look for deals, but if someone came to you and just said, "How do I find some good deals?" What would you tell them?
So I have three ways that I find deals. So number one is referrals. So once I start telling everybody and I, kind of I'm looking for a distressed house or I'm helping, I start talking about it. And I'm saying like when I go to the grocery store, when I just recently went to the cleaners and I
Mhm.
mean, everybody that I meet, go to networking events and meet wholesalers. Now there are wholesalers that you need to be wary of, but wholesalers that you can actually, I've bought,
Mhm.
some. And then the third thing is just finding a marketing, like that could be driving for dollars, meaning every time I go somewhere, I take another 10 or 15 minutes and I drive a neighborhood and I look for distressed properties. And then I market personally to pre probate leads. And I have a very good system. And we tell our clients all of these things and we show them basically the roadway, if you will,
Mhm.
how to do that and what works for them. So marketing for properties, um, just like a real simple thing for the leads that I do. So I have a mom that I pay to write some note cards for me.
Mhm.
I send her the list. So I personally don't do any of that. I
Right.
send that all off. And the cost is like I think the biggest cost is the, first class stamp.
Yeah.
Because I get the note cards off of Amazon. They're like 18 cents a piece.
Mhm.
And then the lead list company that I use, any of my clients gets a huge discount. So,
Mhm.
the cost of buying leads that no one else has advantage of is
Mhm.
really good.
Mhm. 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 Is it better to invest locally or should I look at out of state opportunities?
So it depends. It depends. It depends.
Mm.
So how can you minimize your risk if you're going to do it outside of your where you live? If you can't go put your eyes on it, who's doing that for you, and do
Right.
you trust that person?
Yeah.
So investing out of state is, it's all about your boots on the ground,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
really that's it.
Which I know we talked about some of this last time, and so um if you want more on we really went into depth about the marketing and yeah, boots on the ground and things like that. So have a listen at last week as well cuz we do talk about some of this. But what's one thing I should focus on first when starting my real estate journey?
So I think having faith in yourself,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and you will get no's. You will. When I first started, I had kind of pie. I was gonna like, oh, I was gonna make all this money, and I was gonna be
Right.
able to, and when you start, okay, again, I work with distressed sellers. These are people that are, not
Right.
happy.
Yeah.
I've been called a lot of names over the years, but I think having faith in yourself and not getting not giving up.
Yeah.
And the first deal, just because it's a no, doesn't mean that, you're not going to find a deal.
Right.
And then have a supportive community,
Mhm.
so that you can bounce ideas off. Because even now, the house that we're going to go look at on Sunday is kind of a weird little situation.
Yeah.
And I had to call a couple, two, three people to get feedback. So I don't work in a vacuum. I want to, I'm trying to
Right.
minimize my risk. So I'm going to people who, have good
Mhm.
balance of being an investor, and like, well, what would you do or whatever. So they actually gave me some tips about things I didn't even think about.
Mhm. Yeah. And we'll have to talk about kind of talking we'll go back to it, but maybe like some hurdles to overcome cuz I can think of one just right off the bat. But we'll go back to that when it comes to starting your real estate journey. How do I manage the fear of making a bad investment?
So you won't overcome your fear until you actually buy the property. And
Mhm.
let me explain that. When I bought my first real, I can still remember the pit in my stomach.
Mhm.
I was standing in front of the house, and I just was like, "Oh my gosh, should I do this?" Even the closing day. So
Yeah.
you just have to have, again, it goes back to having faith that
Mhm.
you did your due diligence. And I had a mentor,
Yeah.
that I've trusted completely. Um, but that fear was still there,
Right.
because it's a chunk of change, and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
Um, so I finally got over that. We got the property.
Mhm.
But when I bought the second one, same thing. Still had fear.
Yeah.
When we bought even a bigger property, or my first short-term rental, I had, oh my gosh. So I think you're always having self-doubt,
Yeah.
and you just have to know. I say get a mentor if you feel, because a mentor can, like, we hold
Right.
people's hands,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um, but you want to work with people that you trust, that
Yeah.
that they know what they're doing and they can help you. Because my whole thing is teaching people, like, sort of like how to fish, right?
Yeah.
So that you don't need me, 10 years from now, because I'm teaching you what I know, and you
Right.
can do it. You can do it on your own. And that's what you need. You need to be
Yeah.
with people who can show you the ropes.
I think also to go back to like having a mentor, I think it really goes with a lot of things. Like it's not just real estate investing, but like, you have a coach for basketball or you have like life coaches or a therapist. Like there's people out there to help you go through these journeys. And unless you're feeling 110% confident, then like, okay, go for it. Kind of Lone Island thing. If that's the way that you roll. But if you're even having like 98% sure I can do this, but if you have that 2% of doubt, like it doesn't hurt to just to have someone to help you through at least that first deal.
Right. And
Just
just
because I feel like having someone, I mean, me, I feel like I'm a perfect example. Even though I've been around real estate investing my whole life, like I didn't know a lot. And it's just the comfort of having someone that's not going to let you fail.
the sounding board, the
Yes.
sounding board.
Because
So,
it's still scary because I still had like whenever we did it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing?"
yeah. And the more,
But
for me now, um, if I were to say, okay, I'm going to go buy this, $8 million apartment complex, I would
Mhm.
still, even knowing everything I know
Mhm.
today, I would still have a pit in my stomach.
Yep, yep, yep. You just I mean, it goes back to it is a
And I
risk.
think but I think that pit is really your subconscious,
Mhm.
making, like, okay, are you doing your due diligence? Did you
Right.
cross your I's, dot your T's? Is that
Mhm.
even a thing? Cross your I's and dot your T's? I think it's cross.
Oh. Yes,
But you
I
know what
had to
I
think
mean.
about it. Yes. Crossing those T's, dotting those I's. Yes. And I think that yeah, I mean, it goes back to the question about risk. And like yes, it is a risk, but what size of risk are you going to make it?
Yes.
Um okay, ending on this last, I think this is a really good one
Okay.
because I think that this is a one of those questions that you can answer with like it depends. But um but I think this will help debunk a lot of people too. What's a realistic timeline to see returns on real estate investments?
It depends.
Yep.
Okay, so I've seen this, the quickest that I've seen returns is within 14 days, and I wholesaled a deal. I didn't want to keep the property. I rarely wholesale, but I wholesaled it, and I made like $5,000.
Mhm.
So that's the quickest. Um, the longest, I think, would be, I would say I'm going to say 30 to 45 days. And that's why, because that's usually the length of time
Mhm.
that it takes to close on a property. Because as soon as you close on a property, if you've done your due diligence, you're going to realize a rate of return. It might
Mhm.
not be super high, but because of the tax advantages, because when I say tax advantage, I'm talking about the deductions like the mortgage
Mhm.
interest deductions, if you're collecting rent, so anything that has to do with owning a rental property on the tax, when you go to do your taxes is deductible, deductible, deductible.
Mhm.
So, and then if you bought it right, you know,
Mhm.
you actually will have instant equity. So
Mhm.
if you bought, because I buy distressed properties all the time. So I might buy a property for 150, 175, and people say, "Where do you find those?" I find them every day, all
Mhm.
day long. But it might be worth 300,000.
Mhm.
So that's not cash in my hand, but on my balance sheet, on my net worth, it shows that it's 150,000 more than what I actually paid for the property. And
Mhm.
that's really the true wealth of real estate.
Yes. Yeah. That's good. Perfect. Perfect. So I think these next set of questions, I only have 3 questions.
Okay.
And but ChatGPT only had 3 closing questions for us.
And we do know, let's just say this about ChatGPT. We know it's always changing. We use it for research. So,
Oh, for sure. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
use it for research. I think we talked about this in the Mompreneurs episode, but like ChatGPT is AI and the Gemini, I think Apple has their own. Any of the AI tools is amazing. I mean, it's a little sketch when you really think about it, but if you just high level think about it, it's an amazing tool, but rough draft. It's always a rough draft.
It always is a rough draft. So, but that's why we're filling it in. So,
Exactly. Okay, so we'll both answer these, so you answer and then I'll answer.
okay.
What's one thing you wish people understood about real estate investing?
That it's not as hard as you think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I would honestly say that my answer is the same. I think that the biggest thing, I think that this is what a lot of people think, is the first step is the hardest step.
Yes, the first property is the hardest property. That's just because you're
You're
just
brand
starting.
new.
You're
Yeah.
brand new and you got like all of these emotional things going on and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing and do I know blah blah blah." Yeah, it's
Mhm.
and that's completely normal.
Mhm.
Completely normal to like doubt yourself.
Yeah, and
But I'm going to say this, you do deserve it.
yes.
You do
Yeah.
deserve it.
And when I said I wanted to come back to this about real estate journey, when I asked the question about what's one thing I should focus on first when starting my real estate journey, is yeah, that first investment, that first step, the first time you invest in yourself, to take that leap, that is always the scariest one. And once you get over that, I mean, because I felt that exact same way of like, you think that it's gonna be that you have to drop all of this cash, you think that you have to spend all of this time, like things like that. And hopefully these episodes you don't feel that way anymore.
Right.
Hopefully
Well,
us
and
answering these,
also
but
when you start investing and you will gain this confidence. You will
just like with
gain,
everything else.
yes, you will gain a confidence and you'll be going, dang, really, I can define my future financially if I go down this path.
Well, and I think also a good mentality to have is real estate investing is just another one of those things that practice makes perfect.
Yes,
Like you're never going to be the absolute most perfect at something, but the more you practice, the closer you get to it. So the more investments you do, the better investor you are. So that's what we have to say about that one.
that's right.
Yeah. I feel like I could go on about that because that was my biggest fear.
Yes.
Um what's the most surprising thing you've learned on your real estate journey?
How much fun and how much fun I've had and what doors it's opened for
Mm.
me.
Mhm.
I actually like public speaking
Mhm.
and
You're a
I've
really good public speaker.
and I've been fortunate enough to be on some really good stages. Hopefully later this year we'll have an announcement about another um, national, but I have spoken, I can say internationally. So I like the opportunity to meet other people and share my knowledge.
Yeah, I think for me, I sound like such a broken record, but it's not as
Well, that is the
intimidating.
one thing about real estate. It's the Burr method is it's buy,
rinse
renovate,
or
rinse and
re-
repeat.
yeah,
So,
so I just again I sound like the most broken record person ever, but it's just not as intimidating as I had it in my head.
hmm
Um
you didn't even used to like talking about it.
I know. I literally would be like, I don't want to hear it.
I don't want
We're
to
not
talk
bringing
about
real
it.
estate up. And now I would say it's not my passion like you. Like, I think I can be honest about that. It's not
hmm
my passion, but I recognize that it, again, it's not as intimidating as I had it in my head. And also, too, it has helped us financially.
Yes.
What's one small step listeners can take today to explore real estate investing?
I always say this, call me.
You're broken records with
I
that.
am a broken record. But I would say, go to our website to learn more about us.
Well, to
We have
that,
resources. Yes.
yeah, so to that for this actually is a great I did not plan this or anything like that, but we were going to talk about this today, but this is a great segue into our Millionaire Mama Masterclass. And so that is a free resource for anyone out there. It's an online webinar and you can watch at any point. I think it's like about 45 minutes long. It goes into more depth about you and I. You can skip forward to that point if you absolutely want to, or learn more about us. And then it tells about our strategy, what we use real estate investing, and kind of more in detail of that. That is a great step that you could take today. And it's, again, for free. You can watch at any point. You can pause it, play it, depending on when your kids let you and all that.
You
And
could actually probably invest after you watch it. If you were really confident after you
yeah.
watched it, we give enough nuggets in there to
Mhm.
tell you, okay, this is how you do it.
Yeah. So one small step you could take is watch our masterclass. Also follow us on social media. We like to give real estate investing tips on there. Subscribe to the podcast. That would be amazing. And obviously, we've talked about real estate the past couple
And
episodes
share it.
and share it. But do you want to talk a little bit? So for those that don't know, if this is your first episode listening, or maybe second, Money Making Mamas, our goal is to teach and empower moms and families how to invest in real estate so that they can contribute to their family financially without sacrificing that family time. So, Mom, what does our coaching program look like?
So our coaching program is kind of cool because it's actually customized
Yeah.
to each individual person. You can choose to work with us directly, or we also offer a more like kind of a community type of mentorship, if you will.
Mhm.
But we approach real estate investing like on multiple levels.
Yeah.
Like some people say, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but we're going to help you really drill into how to find properties and then how to analyze them. But
Mhm.
then it's also about, helping you with the social media side of things for real
Mhm.
estate investors because it used to be in the old days. Okay, I'll probably be dating myself. If somebody wanted to find out about me, like this guy I'm gonna go, see on Sunday, he has my name. He could look me up. He's gonna go to where? He's not gonna go to the yellow pages. He's gonna go to the internet.
Mhm.
So there's some things out there that he can find out about me, and or if somebody was looking to even, work with us. So social media is part of our mentorship. We kind of show you how to do that as an investor, and literally our goal is to go over the cliff with you.
Yeah.
When you have those feelings of fear, we're going to be there to catch you. And then we also introduce you to our lead sources. We introduce you to our private money lenders. I mean, so you have access to everything that
Yeah.
we have access to.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to just having at the end of the day, like our goal is to because uh a little bit about Money Making Mamas is how we founded Money Making Mamas was because we realized there was moms like me out there that wanted to spend time with their families. And I think the best thing, like, there's so many mentors out there, but the best thing about us is that we are moms and like ultimately those mama bears come out. And so I think that's just something to take an account for is when you are looking at mentors and people to work with is you want to look at people who are going to protect you at the end of the day. And we're not going to let you fail. So that's another part of our coaching
Yes.
program is
Yeah.
that
We
it's
we
very
help you
much hands on.
we help you minimize that risk
Yep,
as much,
exactly.
and we're not going to let you buy a property we wouldn't buy.
Yeah.
But we are going to tell you if you should buy it. If you don't buy it, we will.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, thank you so much for listening today. Thank you, Mom, for all of the information for the past couple of episodes talking about real estate investing. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Follow us on social media, subscribe to YouTube, all the things. We really appreciate it. Mom, is there any other things that you want to bring up or let anybody know?
Well, if you are a realtor or just an investor, but I also offer pre-probate training. So, what is this? I'm going to be doing some videos on it, so you'll be seeing this online. But it's basically I show you how to market to pre-probate. Now, so what is pre-probate? So, pre-probate leads are people who passed away, like maybe last week.
Mm-hmm.
They have property because all the leads that I work with, they all have real estate. So what happens is you are able, like in Texas, you're able to sell or buy the property without going through probate court.
Yeah.
So you can do, it's a formula, it's a system, a process, if you will. And so I actually teach investors how to work those leads because it takes a little finesse
Yeah.
because these are people that have recently lost a loved one. And you can't just call them up and go, oh, hey, you got a property to sell. There's a little
Mm-hmm.
finesse to that. So I teach investors, but also realtors because like for me, I talked about I only market to properties with a value of the property value is uh, no more than 300,000. But the
Mm-hmm.
leads that I get actually have properties that are 301,000 to over 1 million.
Yeah.
So I've also helped realtors build their business with these off market leads for listings.
Mm.
So it's just a great. So drop your email and we'll send you some information about when we're having our next upcoming training. It's online. It's 3 hours, and the thing is if you can't make it, you get all the recordings. Plus, you're going to get my how to get heirs to agree checklist, and we have some other downloads or whatnot. So watch out for those. If you follow us on social media, you're going to find out when the next one is anyway, and then all the stuff that goes with that. So I'm excited. I love it. I love it because people are very successful finding either properties to buy or realtors have used it to get more listings.
Mm. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Mom.
All
And thank you for all
right.
the information. And this was really good. And again, hope someone out there got something out of it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to
That's
reach out.
right. All right. Well,
All
love
right.
you, honey.
Till
All
next
right.
time. Love you.
All right. Love you. Thanks for joining us.